Got it.
Good afternoon. We are with Sarah Tuttle Edgecombe, and she is a licensed clinical social worker trained in infant and early childhood mental health. And she's going to talk with us today about how we can best support our littles as they grow into big kids and adults, and what we can do as parents to help foster that development. So, thank you for being here, Sarah.
Sure, glad to.
We'll hop right in and just ask, and you just take this whatever direction you'd like to go. But how do we set our children up to be emotionally healthy and ready to navigate new changes like kindergarten?
Hmm. So I think we'll start thinking about as parents to be in responsive relationships with our kiddos is one of the biggest things we can do to help their little brains grow. The Center for the Developing Child at Harvard does all this great stuff about building these responsive relationships. And one of the best ways we do that um, is thinking about serve and return interactions is a phrase they use. So think about a tennis game, right? And how like when you hit the ball, then somebody's got to hit it back. And so thinking about as our even infants are growing, when they are making a noise, when they're babbling, when they're cooing, when they're reaching, how are we responding to that? It's our role to return right back to them. And whether it's repeating the sound they made, whether it's giggling with them, whether it's hugging, but for them to know that every time they throw that ball out, that we're going to be getting it right back to them. Is a huge way to build our relationship with our little ones that then goes on, right? Like all the research shows that them having even one supportive, responsive relationship with a caring adult does huge things to help support them, to buffer the effects of stress and hard things into adulthood. And so we start that from the very beginning. I also think about feelings, and how as soon as we can to start naming those feelings, reading books about feelings, talking about how we're feeling with our children, modeling. I'm really frustrated. I need to just take a breath before we
Mm,
keep figuring this out. Just to keep naming and pointing out, oh, look at her face. I wonder how she's feeling. To be really naming, because right, kiddos they feel something big. They don't know what it is or what to do about it. And once we give it a name, then that's that first step in them thinking, okay, so angry, scared, embarrassed. And then we can think about those next steps. Sesame Street, yes, it's
mhm.
still around, and yes, it's still so good. They even have a separate line website, Sesame Street in Communities, that
Mhm.
has lots of great stuff for parents and for providers, and thinking about feelings and connecting to the characters that are in the show, but also even just separate videos and handouts and really great info about talking about all these big feelings kiddos have. Um, yeah, I think the other thing that I would want to talk about is, and I did send you this link, Mary Kate, the
Yes.
circle of security.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so it's an intervention. So it can be this like 16-part series of a treatment.
Hmm.
But what
Hmm.
I did, I sent you this YouTube video that is just the introduction to the idea, that is the basis for the treatment. But even just that video gives us a great concept to kind of think about.
Hmm. Hmm.
And this circle, us in relationship with our kiddos is the circle. And so we want to be their safe base for them to feel safe enough to go explore, right? Think about when we're like at a playground and we're going to be
Hmm.
sitting on the bench and we want our kiddo to go out and go try to climb up the stuff, right? But
Hmm.
then if they fall, then we are these open hands, ready to comfort them, ready to help them. Um, know that they are safe, know that they are okay, and back until they're ready to go explore again. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
thinking about this circle we are building with them, the circle of security folks have this great line, that for parents to always be bigger, stronger, wiser, and kind.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I think if that's what we're going for, yes, we are the ones who make the rules. Yes, we are the ones who are going to decide all of these things for our children. And when we're doing it, knowing that we are also kind in all of those decisions, I think is a really, really powerful way to think about it.
Especially in the today's world where we don't get a lot of stories about kindness. That really is a
Yeah,
nice countercultural approach, so to speak,
yeah, yeah.
and can make some real change.
Mhm.
Um, what are the best ways to respond to challenging behaviors like tantrums?
Oh, there are a lot of them, aren't there?
Yeah.
There are, and sometimes that feels like uh, the biggest part of parenting, because it feels like it takes the most of our energy, I think. Um, I think when there are challenging behaviors, the first piece is for us to calm ourselves down,
Mm,
and to make sure that we are responding in that adult place and not
mm,
in the place of ourselves.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and so sometimes it means, right, taking again those deep breaths, pausing, just giving yourself just half a second or
mhm,
more if you need it,
mhm,
before responding immediately to our kiddos.
mhm,
I think the next piece is to wonder, what is their behavior trying to tell me,
mm,
right? When we're
mhm,
thinking about children, especially really before they've started talking, and even once they have some words, but not all of the words to say all of these big feelings, their behavior is their form of communication. That's the best they've got. They're doing what
mm,
they can with what they've got. And they need us to help them figure out what those words are. Um,
mm, mhm,
and so what are they trying to tell us? They aren't, they they are communicating something to us that they just can't, they don't know how to communicate any other way.
mm,
Um, and sometimes that may be really hard to figure out, but it's a place to start, just in a place of wondering. And that's a hard place to be if we're really frustrated and angry. But I think for our kiddos, it could maybe get us to some really amazing places. Um,
I
I
think
think
as a
also,
follow-up, oh,
yeah.
sorry. Just as a follow-up in that vein, um, because it can be hard to figure out, are there any sort of typical things that we could read in their behavior that says, oh, that's a sign that they're feeling this? So I could respond this way. There may not be. I mean, every child's different, but there might be just some really general guidelines. I don't know if there are.
I think I think one place to start in general guidelines are wondering, um, is my kiddo off his or her routine? Um,
Mm,
how's sleep been? Are they really tired? Did they skip nap today? Have they had a snack recently? And isn't that true for us as adults too?
mhm,
Like, but
mhm,
when we're off, like, so to just sometimes we just have to wait for a second, go, wait, is it? Oh, yeah. And there was a sub at childcare today.
mhm,
And right, like when kids are off their routine, um,
mhm,
right, they don't know how to say, today feels weird. What's different?
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
but those routines are safety to them, right? Those routines are comfort. And when things are a little off, um, they really hit kiddos really hard. Um, I think also, right, to continue to check in with folks you know, with your pediatrician, with their teachers, about what's developmentally appropriate. um,
Mm-hmm.
because tantrums are developmentally appropriate for that age range, right? For like, say ones and twos and threes, like that's going to happen. Um, and so it is also to kind of go, oh, that's their job. That's their job,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be testing boundaries, to be trying new things, to be exploring. And that's really hard. And that's where they
Mm-hmm.
are. Um, and so I think, yeah, a lot of challenging behaviors are gonna happen. And so to continue to educate yourself and to talk with folks who know about that age to really think through, oh, okay, yep, nope, this is it's they're supposed to be doing this, right?
Mm-hmm. And what are
Um,
the positive outcomes of that? Like you mentioned, it's appropriate to test boundaries and explore and to try these new things. So um what's the good that comes out of tantrums?
hmm, yeah, that is a great question. Yeah. It is. It's your child wanting to figure things out.
Mhm.
Um, it's them really working to communicate with you, that they are wanting to, that they are trying to maybe do this new thing and they can't yet. But they're trying, they really want to be able to reach that tall thing and they couldn't get there and they're frustrated. Um, and so it is, they're feeling all the feelings.
Mhm.
And we want them to do that, as hard as that is, right? To experience the whole range of emotions is part of what we get to do. And as hard as that is. I
Mhm.
think I'd also say to be thinking about, we sometimes the phrase, like, teaching our kids to self-regulate, is this phrase that like we really want really badly, right? Like, oh good, they can do it themselves, they can calm themselves down. And just wanted to throw out that like research has shown that really up until 7 at least, kiddos really need support to regulate. Um, right? There's even a phrase, co-regulation, really
Mhm.
acknowledging that like when our kiddos are upset, we can help them in that. We can hug them and rock and sing and right, especially motion. You see my body just doing
Mhm.
that really helps our kiddos know, okay, they are safe with us. We're helping them show ways that they can start calming their bodies down. But they need our help in doing that. We can't just say, calm down, you're okay.
That
They
doesn't
can't,
really even work with grown-ups.
right? They can't figure that out yet. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So what if I concoct in my imagination that my child's trying to manipulate me? Um, how what is helpful in that to respond to that?
Mhm. Um, I think I think again the first place to start would be to think, what is my child trying to tell me? Um, because I think, right, if we're gonna look at how all sorts of brain grows and develops, there is not malicious intent in
Mhm.
kiddos at a very young age. That is, we're going to see kiddos acting out in lots of different ways because they want our attention,
Mhm.
because they don't feel well, because they are upset for all the different reasons. Um, I think to think about our child's experience and to think about
Mhm.
what it must be like from their perspective um, can give us a lot of insight um, into their actions.
Oh, that's really helpful. Um, what are signs that my child might be struggling with their mental health?
Yeah. In mental health, we think a lot about how symptoms affect daily functioning.
Mm.
Uh, that we think about that's really when we want to look at things, right? Or when um, symptoms are so distressing, are so tough that it's hard for children, for individuals, for families, to get through the day-to-day stuff that we all have to get through. So I think that's a place to start. I think if you have concerns about your child hurting themselves or others, or being unsafe in other ways, that's definitely a place to talk to your pediatrician. I think that's always a great place to start. And I think to also talk to your child's other caregivers. Sometimes there are mental health concerns that come up in one relationship that your child may have, but that may not be present in other relationships that your child may have. So to really get a full picture of what's going on with your kiddo, it'll really be helpful when you're going to pediatrician to be able to go, okay, so teacher's seeing this, and this is what she's saying is happening in the classroom. This is what we see at home, or this is what happens with one parent. And then when other parent, this is like all of the relationships, all of your child's day, all of that will be really helpful information. Right, because there are screens, right? There are things you can fill out with your pediatrician about thinking through your child's behaviors, and how you're feeling about those. And then you can think through, yeah, does it sound like a good fit for us to look at some of the evidence-based treatments that both can work with your child in building their coping and figuring out how to get through the day a little more smoothly, but then also how can you, in relationship with your child, support your child getting through all those things, right? Like when our children are so small, most mental health treatments also include the parents. A huge role you play in supporting your child through stuff that can be really hard.
That makes so much sense. And what a model to give our children that we tend to our own mental health in addition to supporting them.
Yeah.
Just to model that healthy behavior. What else do you want parents to know about supporting their children's social and emotional development?
I think you just said a little bit of it, Mary Kate, that we get to model it. That taking care of ourselves is huge. And I know we hear it and we may or may not listen to it. But I'm going to be another voice to say, really, that is one of the best things we can do for our children, is to take care of ourselves, to do what we need to do, so that we are in a place to respond to our child out of patience and out of kindness. Right? Because when we're tired and hungry and exhausted, and haven't gone for a run in a while, or haven't been to therapy in a while, we may or may not have the capacity to respond to our child like we want to. And so as we model all those things to care for ourselves, then that is a huge place for us to start in supporting our children and doing all those things that we hope they will.
And I'm curious, I know you're in Louisiana,
Yeah.
I'm in Georgia, but what are some community-based resources? I know you've shared several links with me that I'll upload into our resources page, but if somebody watches this and says, huh, I really do need to look at taking better care of myself so that I can be the best parent for my child, what would you suggest to be the first phone call?
For parents to take care of themselves.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, because lots of those links were all about the children, huh?
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a
um,
curveball. Sorry.
that's all right. I think, yeah, community resources are different in each area. I wonder around y'all if there are, well, no, here's where I'm going to start first, is if your child, if you are pregnant up through your baby is 1, there is a great website called Postpartum Support International. So So I think it's postpartum.net. Um,
Okay.
but they are a group that have tons of online support groups,
Great.
um, and by trained facilitators. And they came to mind because
Mhm.
as I was thinking about community resources, and you want to say find parent groups. Um,
Mhm.
what I want to say is you want to find parent groups that have trained facilitators.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
want to be with folks who, you know, know about developmental
Mhm.
things, right? If you're going to be talking about challenging behaviors, you want somebody there who can go, oh, right. And at 18 months, here's where they're going to be, right? Um,
Right.
and so thinking about, I bet your schools and your childcare centers probably know some of those groups. Um, I think your pediatricians probably do. You're going to hear me go back to your pediatricians a lot,
Mhm.
because pediatricians know all the things about child health and they want things that are best for you too. Um,
And my experience has been they don't mind if you call and ask. They want you to call and ask. There's
yes,
no judgment about saying, I need some help in figuring this out because parenting doesn't come with a rule book.
right, right. And teachers also love when
Mhm.
parents ask. They're
Indeed.
glad to support you in that because they also want what's best for your child, and that's great for their days too.
So, as a clinical social worker, what is the organization model that you work in? I know that you do home visits, and I think that's really interesting and is a model that other places could do too. So I'm curious if you would say a little bit about what you do in your day to day.
Sure, there are a couple models of home visiting programs across the country. And so they work with caregivers and children, supporting them, and yeah, sharing all that education about um, how children are developing, and then other roles that we can do to support family well-being on the whole. So yeah, those are all across the country. Quick little Google searches. But yeah, thinking about all the ways that we can be with caregivers of young children and really going, okay, this may get hard. So let's get ready. We'll buckle up and we'll kind of be with you all together. Um, and there are, right? And again, your pediatricians in all your regions best know, like therapists and other places, as you're thinking about mental health referrals as well. I would say that, because again, those are so region specific, and so therapy specific, um, and insurance unfortunately specific. But thinking about all those options if you did have concerns.
Great. Well, Sarah, I just really appreciate your time and energy, and it's good to reconnect. And I will look forward to sharing this finished product with you when everything gets compiled. But thank you so very much.
Yeah, sounds like such a great project, Marky.